This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening and welcome to the City of Warrenville Community Development Committee of the Whole regular meeting for Monday, September 12th, 2022. Deputy Clerk, can I have the roll, please?
Mayor Brummel,
Here.
Alderman Ashour,
Here.
Alderman Berry,
Here.
Alderman Davalos,
Here.
Alderman Goodman,
Here.
Alderman Krischel,
Here.
Alderman Kruckenberg,
Here.
Alderman Lockett,
Here.
Alderman Widener,
Is excused.
absent. So you have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now's the time we set aside for citizens' comments. I don't believe we have anybody signed up tonight. So we'll go to official and staff comments, starting with the mayor.
Good evening. Just a reminder that this weekend is Art on the Prairie, right across the street from City Hall. Always a lot of fun. I think got all the rain out of the way for now, so maybe it'll be nice this coming weekend, but come on down. A lot of artists, a lot of food, a lot of fun, nice family event. So again, Art on the Prairie, Saturday and Sunday. Details can be found on the Park District website. Thank you.
Alderman Goodman.
Yes, for anyone who is interested, Fermilab is hosting a new junior artist in residence program this year. They've had an artist in residence program for the last several years, but now they are looking for student artists. I think it's in the 11 to 15 age range, and you can find out more information about that on their website, fnal.gov, if you have a junior artist who might be interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Davalos? Nope, okay. City Administrator? All right, on to the business of the meeting. Item 1, consideration of a resolution committing funding to the Maple Hill Fox Hollow Path Project for ITEP grant submission, and Senior Civil Engineer Christine Hocking will present this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. If you recall, back in December of 2020, City Council voted not to implement or fund the Maple Hill Fox Hollow Path Project, but directed staff to continue to apply for grant funding for the project. The Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, or ITEP, funding cycle is open. Staff has identified this for previous projects, this grant for previous projects. If you recall, the Streetscape project actually had ITEP funding. We believe that this could be a viable source of a grant for this project. If selected, it would pay for 80% of all engineering phases, so that's preliminary, final, and construction engineering, as well as construction of the project. So it's a pretty significant federal local cost share for this grant. The last time we applied for grant funding was the Surface Transportation Program, or STP program funding back in, I believe it was 2019 or 2020. We were obviously not selected for that grant, so we're trying a different grant, the ITEP project program grant. The application process is pretty straightforward. We have asked the Forest Preserve, since part of the project would go through the Forest Preserve property, for a letter of support, as well as the Maple Hill HOA for a letter of support, because they would also have to grant an easement in the future for this project if we moved forward with it. I have asked for those 2 letters of support. Forest Preserve said they would be sending something. I'm still working with the HOA to see if they could send something before the deadline of this grant, which is the end of September. The updated total project costs are estimated to be about $1.2 million. That is an increase from the last time when we applied for STP funding. looking at previous road program projects, as well as actually the most recent trailhead project with unit costs, obviously, over the last year have gone up. So I accounted for that in the project total cost. So the 20% or local share of this project would be $289,000. Part of the grant application is to also provide a resolution committing the local share of the project costs for the project, and that's included in the agenda backup materials. It is a resolution, obviously. It is stating that the city is behind the project and would fund the project if the grant was approved. However, in the past, obviously, we've known with projects and we've had grant funding, if something happens and the city can't fund it, there's essentially no obligation for the city to provide that money. I think that if anything, it might hamper our ITEP grant applications in the future. With that, if there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Alderman Davalos?
Thank you. Yeah, I had just two questions.
Okay.
When this came up with the Forest Preserve, it also came up, I think, so I'm asking you to refresh my memory. There's sort of an overall bicycle plan, I think, that has been around, and we try to, so that you can bike, the goal, obviously, we're not there yet, is to be able to bike all around the city, staying off a lot of the big major highways. And my understanding was this was an empty spot in that plan. There was not a way, unless you want to drive down Route 59, which isn't the plan, to be able to go from Maple Hill to Fox Hollow. So that's kind of a long inland from that long Route 59 plan. And otherwise, we don't really have a good solution to get people along that corridor.
Correct.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, it is part of the bikeway implementation
Okay, so this would
plan.
actually be part of a bigger bicycle plan and would be probably welcomed by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission, all that stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay. My second plan is money. I mean, I have no plan. My second question is money. So you said it's an assigned balance. So would this come out in the end, our part, as a decision package? Or is there money there? I mean, what does this mean financially when you call it? I mean, I remember from the budget times, but I sort of thought the assigned money might already be spoken for. But I think I have it, I may not have that right. But could maybe Finance Director Dahlstrom can explain what we're talking about here and how you would fund that practically?
Thank you. Within the general fund, while we're still finalizing the numbers, there's approximately $3.3 million in what's termed assigned fund balance. As you will recall, that's the money that came out of the Special Projects Fund. It still is in there. We use that for one-time projects like this, and that's where we would commit this funding out of. And there is enough funding in there to do that at this point, and it has not all been committed anywhere at this point.
Okay, all right, so we have to figure out our part of it, and, right, I mean, we would, like we always do, but we don't have it earmarked, and Christine's saying that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it's not like I don't have a sheet of paper
Yeah.
or anything that says that's gonna be this much. I mean, we know that's where it would be out of when we would budget that accordingly when we do our next budget, so that it would come out of that group, that bucket of funding out of the assigned money.
And would the city maintain that, or does the,
Yeah,
Forest
that's
Preserve
money that's part of
maintain it?
our fund balance, that would come out of our funds, and ultimately, we would need to determine where that's funded out of. My guess, or my projection would be with CMRP for the
Okay.
long term.
yeah, that's what I wondered about the
Yeah.
CMRP. Okay, all right, thank you.
Welcome.
Alderman Goodman?
Yes, not a question, more of a comment. I live in Maple Hill, and ever since the beginning of the pandemic, the bicycle and pedestrian traffic in Maple Hill has noticeably, dramatically increased. And as the pandemic has subsided, I don't feel like the pedestrian and bicycle traffic has also subsided. The interest is there, people are getting out and about, it's great to see, but the only thing that people in the neighborhood can do is go round and round the circle. And sometimes you see people go by and go by and go by and go by again, and that's probably kind of boring for them. And if they had the opportunity to expand a little further afield without having to drive somewhere with a bicycle, for example, I think they would like it. I think the desire is there, the need for this connection is definitely there, the interest in the neighborhood is there. Exactly how this all connects and exactly, what discussions we need to have with the Forest Preserve in order to cross their property, that's, I suppose, still to be determined. But in general, if we can get grant funding to make this project happen, I think the community would definitely be behind it.
Thank you, Alderman Berry.
My question has to do with the timeline. So if we apply for this grant, which would be soon, I'm assuming, when would we find out if we receive this grant or not? Because I'm concerned about the dollar amounts on the projected cost at the moment. I understand that you've increased the amount from obviously several years ago when we, brought this forward originally because prices have gone up. But my concern then is to make sure that the timeline isn't so long that the pricing goes up again.
Right.
So,
No, that makes sense. So the deadline is the end of September, I believe. They would, I can't remember exactly, but it usually takes a couple of months for them to figure out who wins the grant. So you're assuming that timeline. Obviously, it's not in our budget this year to begin any of the engineering. So I would imagine the earliest that we could start the engineering is the next fiscal year.
Which would
Preliminary
start-
engineering, and then it lasts approximately 3 years. So it's 1 year of preliminary engineering, another year of final engineering, and then another year of construction engineering. This one's a little bit more straightforward because we would have the Forest Preserve as a partner. Essentially, we'd have to do an IGA with them for the easement, and then work obviously with the HOA for an easement. But other than that, there's no other easements that we would need to obtain.
So do you think that we have enough money built into this that if it would take us almost 2 to 3 years to actually get this project built, that this is going to still cost approximately $2 million?
We try to add like a multiplier or percentage on top of what we think the unit prices are as of right now. So I added a 3 to 5% multiplier on top of this. Obviously, we don't know where prices will be for construction and where low bids will be at that time, but it's the best estimate that we can give right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just thought of something else. So, the Mac Road path would go from McKees Marsh, a way to get up to 59. So if you then cross 59, I guess this would be south of what you're talking about. So somebody could get on the Mac Road path, cross 59, and they'd go south, and they wouldn't be going to Maple. So it says connect, Maple Hill's north of. I'm trying to connect all these and make a reason to spend this money. And so I'm just trying to complete these bike path things. I guess you could go, Maple Hill could come south on this new path. But even if we didn't okay it, the Mac Road path people can still cross 59 and then go south in Fox Hollow. They're coming into Fox Hollow, right?
Right, yes,
Okay.
from Mac Road.
Okay,
or on the
so,
east side and
okay,
59.
so can the developer dollars with the park donation fund, could that ever be earmarked? I think we've spent most of that money for now, but,
I believe last time when we discussed this in 2020, I believe the funds could not be used for this project. It was a little bit
Okay.
outside of the scope of what those funds could be used for, if I recall from
okay, thanks,
Ron's conversation with the attorney.
okay.
Mayor Brummel?
Thank you. Seems to me I remember last time we talked about this, there was some problem with the Forest Preserve District because there were some sensitive fens or other areas along that path that they indicated that bridges or something would have to be built rather than pathways. Have we considered that into the project?
Yes, yeah, they call them kind of boardwalks through the wetland type area. That's included, that was in the original cost estimate and has continued to be a part of that as well as with any type of wetland mitigation impacts that would occur for the project. So yeah, it goes right through a wetland. There's a stream, essentially it comes from the Maple Hill Pond discharge and goes through the Forest Preserve District area all the way to Mack Road. So we would be crossing kind of an intermittent small stream as well. So it's wouldn't need a bridge, I don't think, but some type of boardwalk structure.
That's what I remember. And so you don't anticipate any problems with the Forest Preserve District because we'll meet all their requirements to have this path in?
Correct, yep.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Yeah, Alderman Davalos?
Okay, I just want to clarify what we're voting on. We're voting to say yes on applying for the funds, the grant money. But the reality is, if we get the grant money and in the future we decide we don't have this money, that's okay. So even though we're talking about our part in this vote, we will have another chance probably to vote once
Correct.
we get the funds and get the final price and all that.
Right, and then there would be the decision package obviously as well.
Okay.
For the preliminary engineering, so that would essentially be the indicator
Okay.
of moving forward with the project.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Lockett?
I'd like to make a motion, City Council approve a resolution authorizing staff to apply for the ITEP grant and pledging to provide the city funds necessary for the local share for the Maple Hill Fox Hollow Path project.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Lockett, a second by Alderman Goodman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, consideration to purchase 4 police department interceptors. And we'll go to Public Works Director Kukler for this item.
Thank you and good evening. You may recall back in June, Council approved 2 resolutions that approved the purchase of 4 police department interceptors. 3 of those were going to be gas and 1 was going to be a hybrid. Shortly after that approval, staff found out that this state contract that the vehicles were being sold under was no longer accepting orders. So we've been waiting for a window to open up with an opportunity to purchase these vehicles again. Just very recently, in the last few weeks, we learned there was a Sourcewell, which is a purchasing cooperative, had a window open up to purchase these vehicles, which actually did close on Friday. So staff placed an order to purchase these 4 vehicles. We confirmed that we can cancel it without penalty and that they'll hold the order until at least September 20th, which would be the day after council would officially approve this purchase. The vehicles we're proposing to purchase are 4 hybrid vehicles. The price of those vehicles has gone up about $12,000 since the last contract. So it went from like $36,000 per vehicle to $48,000 per vehicle. Coincidentally, with the hybrid vehicles, Capital Maintenance Superintendent Clark and I have been forecasting to use their service life to 4 years and 120,000 miles based on research we performed with other municipalities. And the current life cycle for the gas-powered vehicles is 3 years and 90,000 miles. So it actually works out to the same average annual expense in the CMRP of about $12,000 per year. So while there's a higher upfront cost for the vehicle, we anticipate they'll last a year longer, which then will even out the average annual expenses to the CMRP. And there's just a happy coincidence that we discovered even with the higher prices. We did confirm with the City of Chicago, they've got hundreds of these vehicles in their fleet already, I think over 3 model years, and their gas mileage for the hybrid vehicles is 15.3 miles per gallon versus 9.3 miles per gallon for gas vehicles, with a $4 per gallon gas price and our annual usage of 30,000 miles per year. That works out to be about a $5,000 savings in fuel per year for the hybrid vehicle over the gas vehicles. Deputy Chief Dawson had done a little research since we put the packet together, and the one hybrid vehicle that the police department is currently driving it currently gets about 18, a little over 18 miles per gallon versus a little over 11 miles per gallon for the gas vehicles. So it's actually we get slightly better mileage than the Chicago fleet does, and the difference between the two is a mile per gallon more. So it's 7 miles per gallon better of gas mileage. So it's somewhat consistent with the Chicago results too. So that's all I have on this. I'd be happy to entertain any questions, and Jamie Clark and Ken Dawson are both here to answer questions as well if you have them.
Thank you. I just had one question. The one that we have in the fleet now has been driven for several months now, right? Any feedback from officers driving it? Do they, no difference as far as performance and things like that? Do we have any of that information?
I'll defer to Ken for that answer.
Good evening. Some feedback from the staff is the officers really enjoy driving the vehicle. They're reporting more responsive, the vehicle's more responsive than the gas when accelerating. There's more room within the car itself in the cab, and it's quiet all the time, pretty much. You stop and the engine's idling down. So, and also they're reporting less time fueling up. They could drive several shifts and not have to fuel up depending on what they're doing that night. So it's a big difference than the gas. So, but everybody seems all positive feedback.
Okay, that's good. Any other questions? Alderman Lockett?
When do we think we'll get them?
14 to 16 weeks.
Weeks? Wow,
Weeks,
wow,
according to our sales associate.
wow. Okay. Because didn't we have to
We'll
wait?
see.
Yeah, we'll see. Because didn't we have to wait a long time for the other one, like over a year? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, I'm sorry there have been so many delays, but other than that, I'm thrilled with this change. This is going to be an improvement, and I'm quite happy about the change. So I would like to make a motion to recommend the City Council pass a resolution approving the purchase of 4 2023 Ford Hybrid Police Interceptor Utility AWD Explorers through the Sourcewell Contract 091521-NAF.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Goodman, second by Alderman Berry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is for information only. Review and file Community Development Department FY 2023 program update. Is there any discussion on that item? And the next item is also for information. Review and file bi-monthly code enforcement activity report. Any discussion? Nothing under miscellaneous, and we have one more item of business. If someone would like to make that motion, Alderman Goodman.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. Good night.